Have you ever felt the cold sting of unspoken resentment? The sideways glances, the whispered judgments, or the inexplicable distance from people you barely know? It's a subtle but powerful force that can seep into your relationships, your career, even your sense of self. Often the reasons for this hidden hostility have less to do with who you are and more to do with the unseen battles raging within others, and the ones you might unknowingly fuel. But here's the thing. Understanding why people harbor these feelings isn't just a philosophical exercise, it's essential. Imagine walking through life blindfolded, tripping over unseen obstacles, and falling into traps you didn't even know existed. That's what it's like to navigate relationships without clarity on the underlying causes of resentment. In this video, we'll uncover the subtle, corrosive forces that erode connections, and more importantly, how you can rise above them. These are the unseen weights that drag relationships down, misunderstandings that snowball, envy that poisons admiration, insecurities that project shadows onto others. By confronting and addressing these forces, you'll not only free yourself, but also create stronger, more authentic relationships. Stay with us until the end, because the insights you'll gain here won't just help you avoid being misunderstood or disliked, they'll transform how you see yourself and others. Don't forget to subscribe, share this video, and let us know in the comments which of these reasons resonates most with your own experience. Number 1. Envy and jealousy, the root of silent resentment. How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it? Marcus Aurelius. I remember sitting at a company dinner, the kind where people smile politely while subtle tensions linger beneath the surface. Across the table was an old colleague. Let's call him Mark. At one point, Mark and I were close. We worked on the same projects, celebrated promotions together, even grabbed drinks after work. But over time, something shifted. The warmth was replaced with coldness. Conversations turned brief. The supportive words became distant nods. I couldn't understand it. I hadn't wronged him, or so I thought. But as time passed, the tension grew heavier, like invisible static in the air. It wasn't until months later through another colleague that I learned the truth. Mark had been eyeing the very promotion I had received. My success had somehow become his failure. Not because I had done anything to harm him, but because my achievement reminded him of what he felt he lacked. This is the silent poison of envy and jealousy. It doesn't speak loudly. It festers quietly. Like a slow leak in a foundation, it erodes trust and relationships from within. Why does envy emerge so easily? Envy is a mirror. It doesn't reflect who you are, but what others feel they are not. When someone sees you achieve success, confidence, or happiness, it can make them painfully aware of the gaps in their own life. It's rarely about you. More often, it's about what you represent. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Envy arises when people focus on things they cannot control. Your success, your qualities, your achievements. They compare instead of improving. They measure themselves against others rather than focusing on their own growth. But here's the danger. Envy doesn't just stay contained. Left unchecked, it turns into resentment. Resentment can drive people to gossip, sabotage, or withdraw completely from relationships. It's the invisible toxin that can poison friendships, families, and even entire communities. Imagine standing in a garden where two plants grow side by side. One flourishes, vibrant and tall, while the other withers in its shadow. The struggling plant doesn't realize that the sun is available to both of them. It feels deprived, bitter, failing to see that its own growth is within its control. Envy works the same way. It distorts reality. The envious person convinces themselves that your success has stolen their potential, when, in truth, there is enough sunlight for all of us. I once saw this dynamic unfold in a friendship. A close friend, Sarah, had been working hard to get in shape. She committed herself to the gym, improved her health, and felt incredible. Yet, instead of celebrating her progress, another friend in our circle, Alex, grew distant. Sarah's success didn't diminish Alex's ability to improve, yet he felt it highlighted his own struggles. But the truth is, someone else's growth doesn't diminish your own. Excellence isn't a limited resource. Bookmark. What can you do about envy in yourself and others? If you feel envy rising in yourself, shift the focus inward. Ask yourself, why am I feeling this? What does this reveal about my own unmet desires? Turn envy into admiration. Let someone else's success inspire you instead of threaten you. Learn from it. Practice gratitude. Focus on what you have rather than what you lack. This grounds you in contentment. If you sense envy from others, don't internalize it. As Marcus Aurelius said, you cannot control the opinions of others. Someone else's resentment says more about their internal struggles than your worth. Stay humble. Success can be a silent trigger for those around you. Maintain humility, not as self-diminishment, but as a sign of strength. Create distance if necessary. Some relationships can become toxic when envy transforms into sabotage or negativity. Protect your peace. Bookmark. The Stoic Perspective. The Seneca once wrote, "No man is crushed by fortune unless he first allows himself to be crushed." Envy is a self-created prison built from unchecked comparisons and imagined inadequacies. But here's the truth. You have the power to break free. The Stoic path isn't about ignoring difficult emotions. It's about mastering them. It's about recognizing when jealousy creeps in, acknowledging it without shame, and transforming it into growth. It's about understanding that the successes of others don't limit our own. They remind us of what's possible. In the end, envy is a teacher. It reveals what we value and where we feel lacking. The question is, will you let it control you, or will you rise above it? Stay focused on what you can control. Celebrate the success of others, and remember, there is enough sunlight for everyone. Number 2. Misunderstandings and poor communication, the seeds of conflict. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Seneca. Why do so many relationships break down, not from betrayal or cruelty, but from simple misunderstandings? Why can a single misplaced word or misread expression spark tension between two people who once stood side by side? The truth is, most conflicts aren't born from malice, but from confusion, like fog clouding the space between two people. You think they meant one thing, they thought they conveyed another. And in that gap, resentment quietly takes root. The small missteps that create distance. It often starts small. A text message left unanswered, a comment made in jest but taken too seriously, a compliment that sounded more like criticism. Think back to a time when someone misjudged you, when your words were twisted or your silence mistaken for coldness. Maybe a coworker assumed you were undermining their ideas when you simply wanted clarity, or a friend felt ignored when you were just overwhelmed. These tiny cracks, when left unchecked, spread like fractures in glass. They distort perception. They turn friends into rivals and allies into strangers. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." Most people don't intend harm. Yet instead of clarifying, we often react. Defensiveness, silence, avoidance, and the misunderstanding deepens. Bookmark. N008. Why misunderstandings happen so easily. Poor communication often stems from assumptions, one of the mind's greatest traps. We assume others know our intentions. We expect people to read between the lines or just understand. But no one can read minds. We assume silence means agreement or rejection. A lack of response can feel like neglect, when in reality the other person may simply be busy or unsure how to respond. We assume our emotions are obvious, but tone and context shape words. What sounds neutral to you may feel harsh to someone else. These assumptions widen the gap. They create stories in our minds, stories where we are the victim and the other the villain. Misunderstandings as seeds of conflict. Picture a wildfire sparked by a single ember. A small flame easily extinguished if noticed early, yet capable of consuming an entire forest if ignored. Misunderstandings are like those embers. Left unresolved, they smolder, fed by assumptions, ego, and lack of clarity. A friend doesn't invite you to a gathering. Instead of asking why, you assume you're being excluded. Resentment builds. A colleague questions your idea during a meeting. Rather than seeking clarification, you perceive it as an attack. These are not acts of malice, but of human error. Mistakes in perception, not character. Bookmark. The Stoic approach. Control your interpretation. The Stoics teach us that conflict often arises not from events themselves, but from how we interpret them. Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. You can't control how others speak or how clearly they express themselves, but you can control how you respond to confusion. Bookmarked. How to prevent and resolve misunderstandings. 1. Clarify. Don't assume. When in doubt, seek clarity. If a comment feels offensive, ask, "Could you clarify what you meant by that?" Often, you'll find the perceived slight was never intended. 2. Practice active listening. Most people listen to respond, not to understand. The next time you're in conversation, focus entirely on the speaker. Reflect their words back. So you're saying you felt unheard? This reduces misinterpretation. 3. Control your reactions. Before reacting with anger or defensiveness, pause. Ask yourself, do I fully understand their perspective, or am I assuming intent? Respond with patience, not impulse. 4. Assume good intent. Most people are not malicious, but misunderstood. Give the benefit of the doubt. Even if someone expresses themselves poorly, assume their intentions were not harmful. 5. Speak with precision. When you express yourself, be clear. Avoid vague language. If you feel hurt, say so directly. If you need support, voice it clearly. Clear words create clarity of understanding. 6. Apologize when necessary. If you realize you've contributed to a misunderstanding, own it. I think I may have miscommunicated earlier. Let me explain better. Humility diffuses conflict faster than defensiveness ever will. Bookmark. Call conflict as a teacher. Conflict often feels like a wall, something blocking peace. But in truth, it can be a mirror, reflecting where we need growth. Misunderstandings remind us to practice patience, to seek clarity, to become better listeners and clearer speakers. The next time you're faced with tension in a relationship, remember, most fires can be extinguished before they burn out of control. All it takes is courage, the courage to clarify, to communicate, and to rise above assumptions. Let clarity be your guide, and peace will follow. If this message resonates with you, subscribe now and join us on the path to wisdom, clarity, and personal growth. Number 3. Differences in values and beliefs. When ideals collide. You always own the option of having no opinion. There is never a need to get worked up or to trouble your soul. Marcus Aurelius. Why do differences in values so often divide us, turning simple disagreements into lasting resentment? Why do people feel threatened when confronted with beliefs different from their own? I once had a conversation with an old friend, let's call him James. We were both passionate about personal growth, but approached it from completely different angles. He believed discipline and structure were the only paths to success, while I valued flexibility and adaptability. What started as a casual discussion turned tense. Neither of us was trying to convince the other, but as the conversation unfolded, it felt as if we were defending our identities rather than just ideas. This is what happens when values collide. What should be a healthy exchange of perspectives often turns into a battle for validation. Why? Because our beliefs aren't just opinions. They become woven into the fabric of who we are. Why do differences in values create conflict? At the core, values shape how we interpret the world. They influence our choices, our judgments, and even our sense of identity. When someone challenges those values, whether directly or indirectly, it feels personal, as though our entire worldview is under attack. Seneca once said, "If you wish to be loved, love." But too often, we allow differences to create distance instead of using them as opportunities to understand. Consider the metaphor of a lighthouse. Each person's beliefs are like beams of light, guiding their decisions and actions. When two lighthouses shine in opposite directions, it doesn't mean one is wrong. It simply reflects different ways of navigating life. The problem arises when we mistake differing paths for threats rather than perspectives. Bookmark. Scene on the Stoic view on clashing beliefs. The Stoics teach us that external events, including other people's beliefs, are beyond our control. What matters is how we respond. Epictetus reminded us, it is not events that disturb people, but their judgments concerning them. A difference in belief is not inherently harmful. What causes harm is our emotional reaction, our need to prove our perspective as superior rather than listening with humility. When we become emotionally attached to our views, we stop seeking truth and start seeking victory. Bookmark. How misunderstandings escalate. When values clash, it often plays out in 3 stages. 1. Assumption of superiority. Believing one's values are the right way, leading to condescension or judgment. 2. Emotional reaction, feeling personally attacked when someone disagrees with those values. Number 3. Disconnection, avoiding or resenting the person rather than the idea they hold. Think of it like two ships navigating the same ocean but guided by different stars. The destination may be the same, truth, wisdom, personal growth, but the routes diverge. And instead of respecting the different paths, we argue about which star is brighter. Bookmark 3D. How to handle conflicting values with wisdom. 1. Listen to understand, not to debate. Approach conversations with curiosity rather than the need to be right. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this person's perspective? Seek clarity, not confrontation. 2. Detach from emotional investment. Remember, your values are yours. They don't need constant defense. Disagreement doesn't mean disrespect. If someone questions your beliefs, it's not an attack. It's an opportunity for self-reflection. Through practice amor fati, loving what is, the Stoics encourage us to accept reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. People will have different values. This diversity is not a threat but a reflection of the world's complexity. 4. Clarify your own principles. Be clear about what you stand for. The more grounded you are in your values, the less threatened you'll feel by opposing views. As Marcus Aurelius advised, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. 5. Know when to walk away. Not every conflict needs resolution. Sometimes peace comes from accepting differences without forcing agreement. If a discussion turns toxic, disengage with grace. Finding strength in differences. The truth is, it's often our differences that teach us the most. Exposure to varying beliefs can strengthen our understanding of our own principles, if we let it. A river gains strength not by flowing in a straight line, but by bending, shifting, and carving new paths through resistance. In the same way, our perspectives grow when we're challenged, not when we're sheltered. So the next time someone disagrees with you, pause. Resist the urge to defend. Instead, listen, reflect, and remember, wisdom is found not in the absence of conflict, but in how we respond to it. If you found value in this message, subscribe and join our community where wisdom meets clarity. Share your thoughts below. What's a belief you've challenged or redefined in your life? Number 4. The power of rumors and gossip. How lies destroy reputations. If anyone can refute me, show me I'm making a mistake or looking at things from the wrong perspective, I'll gladly change. It's the truth I'm after. Marcus Aurelius. Why is it that words, often whispered behind closed doors, can cause so much damage? How can a single distorted story have the power to destroy someone's reputation while the truth struggles to be heard? Gossip operates like a virus. Once released, it spreads quietly but aggressively, infecting minds with half-truths and exaggerations. It poisons trust, warps perceptions, and reshapes how people see you, sometimes long before you've had the chance to speak for yourself. A false story, once shared, is like a match igniting dry leaves. It burns quickly, fueled not by truth, but by curiosity, bias, and the simple human tendency to assume the worst. Why do rumors have so much power? At its core, gossip thrives on two things: emotional bias and lack of critical thinking. People tend to believe what aligns with their fears or suspicions, especially when the story seems to reveal someone's flaws. It creates a sense of being in the know, a feeling of superiority over someone else's misfortune. Yet, as Epictetus reminds us, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. Instead of verifying the truth, people often spread what they've heard without question. The more a rumor travels, the less it resembles reality, like ink bleeding into water, distorting the original image until all that's left is a dark, murky impression of the truth. But the true danger of rumors lies in their ability to change how people are perceived. Even when a story is entirely false, its repetition can create lasting damage. Once someone's character has been stained by gossip, it can be nearly impossible to erase the negative impression. This is why rumors are so destructive. They don't just harm reputations, they rewrite reality. The emotional impact of gossip. The consequences of gossip go far beyond mere embarrassment. It can sever relationships, breed mistrust, and isolate people from their communities. The worst part? It often attacks the most vulnerable parts of a person, their character, integrity, or past struggles. Imagine a mirror shattered into 1,000 pieces. Each shard reflects a distorted fragment of reality. That's what gossip does to a person's image. It breaks it into fragments, reflecting only the most exaggerated and flawed pieces, while the whole truth remains out of sight. For the person targeted, the emotional toll can be overwhelming. Being misunderstood or falsely accused can create feelings of helplessness, frustration, and anger. But Stoicism teaches us that while we cannot control the words of others, we can control how we respond. Mark BSA Nate Knight K. The Stoic response: integrity over noise. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." You cannot stop every rumor, you cannot correct every lie, but you can remain steadfast in your truth. Integrity, lived consistently, is the most powerful defense against gossip. When rumors spread, resist the urge to fight every accusation. Instead, focus on living a life so anchored in truth that the lies begin to sound absurd by comparison. As the saying goes, a lion doesn't concern itself with the opinions of sheep. Let your actions speak louder than their words. How to rise above gossip. Practically, clarify, but don't defend endlessly. If someone questions your integrity, respond with clarity, not defensiveness. A simple truth delivered calmly holds more weight than emotional outbursts. Lead by example. The way you carry yourself daily matters more than words. People will remember your consistency far longer than a passing rumor. Don't feed the fire. When you hear gossip about others, refuse to participate. Ask yourself, is this helping anyone? Would I want this said about me? If not, walk away. Practice emotional detachment. Stoicism teaches us to detach from things outside our control. You cannot control every opinion, but you can control how much power you give them over your peace. Surround yourself with truth seekers. The company you keep matters. Choose relationships with those who value honesty and personal growth over sensationalism. But the long-term power of truth. It's easy to feel powerless in the face of rumors, but the truth, while often quieter, holds a strength that outlasts the noise. Lies may spread quickly, but they lack the foundation to endure. The people who matter, those who value integrity, will eventually see through the fog. In the end, your character is not defined by what others say about you, but by how you choose to respond. Stay rooted in your principles. Speak with clarity. Live with integrity. And remember, the words of others can only damage you if you let them. Choose instead to rise above. If this message speaks to you, subscribe for more insights on personal growth and mastering emotional resilience. Share your thoughts below. How have you learned to rise above the noise in your life? Number 5. Personal insecurities and projection. When internal struggles turn outward. You have power over your mind, not external events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. Why do people lash out at others for reasons that seem completely unjustified? Why does someone's success, happiness, or confidence often trigger resentment in those around them? The truth is, it often has nothing to do with you and everything to do with the unseen battles they are fighting within themselves. Personal insecurities have a way of twisting how we see the world. Imagine a cracked lens. When you look through it, everything seems distorted. People who project their struggles outward are often wearing that lens. They're not reacting to reality, but to their own fears and self-doubts. When someone feels inadequate, they may unconsciously project those feelings onto others, using criticism or hostility as a defense mechanism. Consider a colleague who seems to undermine your ideas in meetings, not because your ideas lack merit, but because your confidence reminds them of their own self-doubt. Or the friend who becomes distant after you start making positive life changes, as if your growth highlights what they feel they're lacking. These reactions aren't reflections of your character, but of their internal struggle, an attempt to transfer their pain onto someone else. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus once said, "People are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them." Insecurities are rooted in how we perceive ourselves. When someone feels like they're failing or lacking, it becomes easier to externalize those feelings, to point at others rather than confront personal shortcomings. But blaming others doesn't solve the root issue. It only deepens the cycle of resentment. Projection often stems from unaddressed personal pain, failures, comparisons, unfulfilled expectations. When left unresolved, these emotions manifest as criticism, gossip, or passive-aggressive behavior. It's easier to focus on tearing someone else down than to face the difficult work of self-reflection and growth. But, as Stoicism teaches, true strength comes not from criticizing others, but from mastering oneself. So how do you break free from this cycle, both when you feel it rising within yourself and when others project it onto you? First, you must learn to separate perception from reality. When faced with criticism, ask yourself, is this truly about me, or is it a reflection of their own struggles? Most often, it's the latter. If you feel envy or frustration creeping in towards someone else's success, pause. Marcus Aurelius advised, when you are tempted to blame others, turn inward and ask yourself, have I done what I could? Let that discomfort become a mirror, revealing areas for personal growth instead of reasons to resent. Responding to others' projections requires emotional control, a core Stoic principle. Resist the temptation to meet negativity with negativity. Instead, maintain your composure. Silence is often the most powerful response when someone projects their insecurities onto you. By refusing to engage, you deny their words the power to disrupt your peace. However, addressing your own insecurities requires courage. The courage to face uncomfortable truths. Start by identifying patterns. Do you find yourself criticizing others who have what you desire? Do you feel defensive when someone else's achievements highlight your struggles? These feelings, while uncomfortable, are opportunities for growth. Transforming personal insecurity requires deliberate action. Focus on what you can control: your efforts, mindset, and self-improvement. Journal your thoughts, identify the root of your self-doubt, and commit to personal growth without comparison. The more you work on yourself, the less space there is for resentment. Projection is like a shadow. It only appears when you turn away from your inner light. The stronger your self-awareness, the smaller that shadow becomes. Remember, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. By mastering your perception and focusing on self-growth, you reclaim the power that projection attempts to steal. Ultimately, the lesson here is simple but profound. You cannot control how others see you, only how you see yourself. Strengthen your mind. Build your character. Rise above the noise. Number 6, lack of empathy and understanding. The barrier to connection. Whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself first, what fault of mine most closely resembles the one I am about to criticize? Marcus Aurelius. Why do relationships fracture? Not from dramatic betrayals, but from something as subtle as a lack of understanding. Why can two people, both well-meaning, drift apart simply because they fail to see the world through each other's eyes? Empathy is the cornerstone of human connection, yet it is often neglected. It is more than simply feeling bad for someone. It's the ability to step into their perspective, to see life through their lens. Without it, conversations turn into confrontations, and relationships become battlegrounds of assumptions. Imagine two people speaking through a fogged window. They can see shapes, hear muffled sounds, but clarity is missing. Every word exchanged is distorted, and over time, frustration builds. This is how a lack of empathy operates. It blurs understanding, leaving space for assumptions and resentment to grow. Bookmark. Why does a lack of empathy cause conflict? At the heart of most conflicts lies not cruelty but misperception. People assume negative intent where none exists. A colleague questions your idea in a meeting, and instead of considering it constructive feedback, you perceive it as an attack. A friend forgets to text back, and you assume neglect, rather than considering they may be struggling with their own challenges. This absence of empathy leads people to judge based on limited information. When we don't understand someone's motivations, we fill in the blanks, often with the worst interpretations. Without empathy, we see only the surface, the reaction, and not the pain or struggles hidden beneath it. Seneca wisely observed, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than reality." When we assume the worst about others, we create unnecessary pain that could often be avoided with clearer understanding. Bookmark. How misunderstandings spiral into resentment. A lack of empathy can turn small misunderstandings into lasting conflicts. Someone misinterprets a comment, feels slighted, and instead of seeking clarification, distance grows. Emotional walls are built, not from real harm, but from imagined offenses. Consider how easily assumptions compound. A minor disagreement turns into lingering tension. Words are exchanged with growing emotional weight. Eventually, the entire relationship feels strained, all because clarity was never sought. The Stoics remind us that our judgments, not external events, are the source of our suffering. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." By reacting without understanding, we allow our minds to create unnecessary conflicts. Bookmark E9173, the impact of self-centeredness on empathy. The lack of empathy often stems from self-absorption. When someone is consumed by their own struggles, ambitions, or fears, they lose the ability to recognize the pain in others. Narcissistic behavior can mask itself as confidence, but often reveals a deep emotional blindness to those around them. Think of a spotlight shining so brightly on one stage that it blinds the entire audience. That's what happens when someone focuses only on their perspective. It dims the visibility of everyone else's experiences. How to cultivate empathy and break the cycle. Empathy isn't passive, it's a skill that requires practice. Here's how to actively build it. Pause and listen fully. When someone speaks, resist the urge to formulate a response. Listen, not to reply, but to understand. Ask yourself, what is this person truly expressing? Seek clarification before assuming. If a comment feels offensive, ask, could you explain what you meant by that? Rather than assuming negativity, give others the benefit of the doubt. Acknowledge shared struggles. Remind yourself that everyone faces unseen challenges. The barista who seemed cold, the friend who canceled plans, they may be dealing with difficulties you cannot see. Reflect on your own biases. When you feel judgment rise, turn inward. Ask, am I reacting to their words or my own insecurities? Practice emotional detachment. The Stoics teach us to separate external events from our internal peace. If someone seems rude, don't let their behavior control your emotions. The strength in empathy. It takes strength to empathize, especially when facing negativity. But empathy is not about excusing poor behavior, it's about seeing situations with clarity. To understand is not to condone, it is to liberate yourself from unnecessary anger. True power lies not in winning arguments, but in maintaining inner peace. By choosing empathy, you build bridges where others see barriers. You rise above assumptions, you master yourself. Remember, empathy isn't just about being kind to others, it's about freeing yourself from the burden of unnecessary conflict. If you found this message valuable, subscribe and join our community dedicated to wisdom, clarity, and personal growth. Share your thoughts. How has practicing empathy improved your life? Number 7. Unhealthy competition and rivalry. When success breeds hostility. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Marcus Aurelius. Why does someone else's success often feel like a personal threat? Why do moments of triumph so easily transform admiration into resentment? The truth is, it's not success itself that breeds hostility, it's how we choose to perceive it. Think of a flame. Fire, when contained, provides warmth, light, and energy. But when it burns uncontrolled, it destroys. Competition works the same way. Healthy competition can be a powerful motivator, driving us to excel and sharpen our skills. But when rivalry becomes driven by envy, ego, or the fear of being outshined, it no longer inspires growth. It corrodes relationships. I once knew two entrepreneurs, both highly talented and successful in their fields. They started as collaborators, pushing each other to greater heights. But over time, subtle comparisons emerged. Who had more followers, who landed bigger clients, who received more recognition. What began as mutual support turned into silent hostility. Their focus shifted from personal progress to proving superiority. And with that shift, the collaboration that once elevated both of them crumbled under the weight of ego. Bookmark TISA 5x9Q. Why does competition turn toxic? The problem arises when people confuse external achievements with self-worth. If your identity is tied solely to being the best, then someone else's success feels like a direct attack on your value. This mindset turns life into a zero-sum game. as if there's only so much success to go around and another person's win somehow diminishes your own. But Stoicism reminds us that external achievements are never the measure of true greatness. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Receive wealth or prosperity without arrogance, and be ready to let it go." Real strength comes not from outperforming others, but from mastering oneself. When competition turns into rivalry, it stops being about personal growth and becomes a battle of egos, where the goal shifts from excellence to tearing others down. Gossip, sabotage, and passive-aggressive behavior take root. And in the end, it's not success that's the enemy, it's the fear of inadequacy. The hidden cost of rivalry. Unhealthy rivalry doesn't just damage relationships, it weakens your character. When your focus shifts from becoming better to simply winning, you sacrifice personal integrity. Instead of pursuing excellence for its own sake, you become reactive, constantly measuring your self-worth against others. Consider a tree in a forest. It grows upward, reaching for the light, not because it wishes to outgrow its neighbors, but because growth is its nature. Your personal development should be the same, driven by internal purpose, not external comparison. But how often do we lose sight of that? How often does someone else's progress make us feel smaller, as if their light somehow dims our own? Bookmark. JD, the Stoic approach. Control your mind, not others. The Stoics taught that the only competition worth engaging in is the competition with yourself. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the control of yourself, not over others." True mastery lies in overcoming your own limitations, not in defeating your peers. If you find yourself caught in the trap of unhealthy competition, remember this: you cannot control the success or failure of those around you, but you can control how you respond to it. When you see someone succeed, instead of asking, "Why not me?" ask, "What can I learn from them?" Instead of resenting their achievements, let their success inspire your growth. Breaking free from the trap of unhealthy competition begins with shifting your perspective. True success isn't measured by outpacing others, but by becoming better than you were yesterday. Redefine success as personal growth rather than external validation. When you see someone else succeeding, train yourself to celebrate their victories instead of feeling diminished by them. Applaud their hard work, not out of politeness, but as a reminder that achievement is possible for all. Rather than viewing others' success as a threat, let it serve as proof of what's achievable. Transform comparison into a source of inspiration. Ask yourself, what habits, mindsets, or disciplines can I learn from them? Allow their progress to fuel your own, not by mimicking their path, but by refining your own. Detach from the need for external validation. The Stoics remind us that our worth is defined not by praise or recognition, but by the strength of our character and the effort we invest in self-mastery. Remember, personal value isn't tied to awards or public approval, but to the quiet work you do when no one is watching. Finally, focus your energy where it truly matters, on competing with yourself. Measure progress not by how others are performing, but by how far you've come in your own journey. Ask, am I wiser, stronger, and more disciplined than I was last week? This shift not only frees you from the grip of envy, but transforms competition into a powerful tool for personal growth and inner peace. At its core, competition is neither good nor bad. It's how you approach it that defines its impact. When fueled by ego, it creates division, but when rooted in self-mastery, it becomes a path to personal growth. The next time you feel the sting of comparison, pause. Ask yourself, am I threatened because they are better or because I've neglected my own growth? Remember, success is not a limited resource. There is no shortage of greatness. When you rise, others can rise with you. Number 8, the influence of social expectations, when nonconformity sparks judgment. The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them knows the truth. Marcus Aurelius. Why is it that choosing your own path so often invites criticism? Why does standing out, even for the right reasons, make you a target for judgment? The answer lies not in your actions, but in how deeply people cling to the comfort of conformity. Society, like a river, has a current, a collective flow of norms, traditions, and unspoken rules. It urges you to stay in line, to follow its direction without question. But when someone dares to swim against it, When you choose to live differently, think independently, or break free from the patterns others accept, it disrupts that flow. And disruption, even when rooted in truth, often provokes discomfort. Think of a sculptor chiseling away at a block of stone. Every strike removes a part of what was once whole, reshaping it into something unique. But to those who cling to the original form, the transformation feels threatening. Change challenges the familiar, and so judgment arises not because you're wrong, but because your choices reveal the rigidity in their beliefs. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." To live with integrity often means standing alone, even when the crowd disagrees. But judgment from others is rarely about you. It's a reflection of their discomfort with difference. The judgment you face for living authentically often stems from fear. When someone sees you defying expectations, whether by pursuing a different career, challenging outdated beliefs, or prioritizing personal growth, they may feel confronted with their own limitations. Your courage becomes a mirror, reflecting the choices they've avoided or the risks they were unwilling to take. Conformity provides safety. It offers the illusion of belonging. But when you break free from that mold, it forces others to question whether they've been playing it too safe. And instead of self-reflection, it's easier to criticize the person who challenges the norm. The discomfort also arises from how society equates sameness with safety. Nonconformity feels unpredictable. And what people can't predict, they often fear. But the Stoics teach us that external judgments hold no real power unless we give them control over our inner peace. The path to personal freedom isn't found in avoiding judgment, but in learning to endure it with grace. If you want to live according to your principles rather than society's shifting expectations, you must first free yourself from the need for approval. Detach from the noise by remembering Epictetus's wisdom. If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. To grow, you must become indifferent to the opinions of those who measure life by convention rather than truth. When judgment arises, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, is this criticism a reflection of my actions or their discomfort? If you've acted with integrity, the opinions of others are nothing more than passing winds, loud but powerless. Living outside societal norms isn't an act of rebellion, it's an act of courage. It means prioritizing truth over comfort, self-respect over approval. But it also requires emotional resilience. There will be moments when the crowd whispers, when people question your choices or attempt to diminish your success. But remember, a lion does not concern itself with the opinion of sheep. True strength lies in holding your ground, rooted in wisdom and principle, while the noise passes. Practical steps to embrace nonconformity with wisdom begin with clarifying your core values. You must define what truly matters to you, independent of societal norms or external pressures. When your values are clearly understood and deeply rooted, the noise of public opinion loses its influence over your decisions. Practicing emotional detachment is equally essential. The Stoics teach us that we should focus only on what we can control, our actions, our thoughts, and our character, while releasing attachment to what lies beyond our influence, including the judgments of others. People's opinions will shift, but your integrity should remain constant. Surrounding yourself with independent thinkers can provide support and inspiration on this path. Seek those who prioritize personal growth, truth, and authenticity over blind conformity, as they will remind you that choosing to stand apart doesn't mean standing alone. Lead by example, rather than engaging in endless debates to justify your choices. Actions rooted in wisdom and integrity speak louder than explanations ever could. Finally, learn to accept discomfort as a sign of growth. Criticism often arises when you challenge the norm, and while it may feel uncomfortable, it's a signal that you're stretching beyond limitations. If no one ever questions your choices, you may not be growing at all. True freedom lies not in winning the approval of others, but in mastering your mind and staying true to your principles. In the end, the influence of social expectations only holds power over those who grant it power. The crowd's opinion may be loud, but it is rarely wise. Their judgment may sting, but it cannot define you unless you let it. The next time you feel the weight of judgment pressing against you for choosing your own path, remember, The greatest minds in history, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, stood against the tide. They chose truth over comfort. And so can you. Number 9. Feeling overlooked. The pain of being unrecognized. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Marcus Aurelius. Why does being overlooked hurt so deeply? Why can the absence of recognition feel as painful as outright criticism? It's because human beings crave validation. We want our efforts to matter, our contributions to be seen. But when that acknowledgement doesn't come, when our work goes unnoticed, our kindness is taken for granted, or our presence feels invisible, it can create a quiet bitterness, a sense of being undervalued. Yet, the Stoics teach us that external recognition is a fleeting, unreliable reward. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to act with virtue, not for applause but because it was the right thing to do. Just do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter. Seeking validation from others places your peace in the hands of circumstances you can't control. Feeling overlooked is painful not because we are ignored, but because we let external opinions dictate our self-worth. True strength lies in shifting that focus inward. Instead of asking, "Why don't they see me?" ask, "Am I living according to my values?" Recognition is often delayed, sometimes never given, but integrity requires no audience. If you find yourself feeling unrecognized, remember that your value isn't determined by the spotlight. Focus on showing up with excellence, whether the world applauds or remains silent. The oak tree doesn't grow tall seeking admiration. It grows tall because growth is its nature. Likewise, let your actions speak for themselves and trust that the right people will notice, if not now, eventually. In the end, mastering your emotions, overcoming comparison, and rising above judgment all lead to one truth: living with wisdom, integrity, and inner peace. The path isn't always easy, but staying true to your values brings the greatest strength. Remember, your worth isn't defined by others' opinions. It's defined by how you choose to live each day. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, and share this video with those you care about. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.